seconds.
So we're live out of the NOVOFLEX webinar room here in beautiful Memmingen, Germany. Welcome again to another webinar. Hello, Matt.
Hello, Martin. How are you? Oh,
I'm
Catskills.
good.
Catskills a little bit gray today, but we've had a lot of rain lately, so gray is better than wet. So yeah.
Exactly, but I think we all could need a little rain these days.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Because the landscape is too dry. Dry to actually do great macro photography.
Yes, it's
in my
true.
opinion.
Well, the rain brings the flowers, and we do love flowers.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
So did you ride your bike today, as you did last week when we
spoke?
No,
actually, a confession time. I had to clean the studio.
So. Okay. You cleaned the studio for today's webinar.
Yes.
On an awesome topic, actually. The next generation focus rail. We call it the next generation focus rail, the Castel M, and that's why you all signed up to. And please let us know in the comments where you all are tuning in from. Would be great to see. Idaho, Armenia. Hi to Armenia.
Hey, Sue.
Hi, Brenda. Great to have you here. Should we wait like 2 more minutes, Matt, before we actually start the presentation to let people?
I think people can catch up. But yeah, they're coming in, and for the benefit of everyone that's here, we're really glad that you're here. We put together a really solid both presentation and demonstration today for you. I've had the Castel M for a handful of months, and I got to say, I'm never looking back. It's really changed. I was very enthusiastic about macro prior to this, and now I think I'm even more enthusiastic about it.
How many pictures did you take in the past couple of months with the new rail, Matt?
Couple thousand.
Couple of thousand. Wow.
I mean, they're macro stacks, so right. So
okay. I mean, the complete final image.
How many compositions? Oh, a dozen or two. Yeah,
a dozen or two. Okay.
Yeah, and I won't share all of those because right? Not every picture I take is worth sharing, but it's worth making. So,
but I'm looking forward to seeing some of your images. I spotted some of them in the presentation that we both created. I mean, you created most of it. I just provided some comments, but I'm really looking forward to seeing your images in the presentation. Okay, why don't we jump right into it?
Done.
Okay. We're speaking about focus stacking a lot today. Here's a first focus stack that we created when we actually launched the new Castel M back in May. I think these are 2 images that you did, Matt. Is that correct?
We're looking at the title slide right now.
Oh, okay. So sorry, yeah. I have to.
There we go. Okay. There we go.
So this was the first image that I spoke. I don't have to work on 2 computers simultaneously. Okay, so this is an image that we actually created when we launched the new rail back in May. And these are 2 images that you created, Matt, right?
Yeah, this is I'll show you guys the details of this one a little later in the presentation, but I went back to Flash. I used Flash to illuminate these images, this focus stack, just to get everything nice and crispy. And yeah, this was just a wildflower that happened to be around Catskill.
Cool. So you said that you're providing some details on the stack a little later, right?
Yeah. I mean, right now I'll just tell you guys it was 143 images. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This one
this is another one of your images.
Yeah, this is the cherry tomato at 2:1. And what was interesting to me was getting the focus stack from the sliced surface of the tomato all the way down past the shape of the seed, and getting sort of the shapes within the gelatinous area surrounding the seeds, and starting to be able to see things that I've never seen before when looking at a tomato.
So that's a tomato.
Yep, a cherry tomato. Yeah.
I was wondering what it actually is. So now we know, a tomato. Awesome. So that's another image that we created for when we launched the rail, for the launch of the rail. That's the back of my Nomos mechanical watch. That's the complication of the watch. I don't know who is familiar with mechanical watches, but I'm a big fan of mechanical watches. This is something to do with me working for NOVOFLEX, because we do a lot of mechanic products. Who knows?
It's gorgeous.
So, okay, here's today's agenda. We are going to cover the new Castel M focusing rail. We will speak about why the Castel M will save you a lot of time when creating macro focus stacks. We will compare the Castel M to conventional manual focus rails. And we will do a live demonstration of how you create focus stacks with the Castel M focus rail. So you will have a direct view right through the viewfinder of the camera setup that I have here right on my macro table. And Matt will provide some insight from the stacks that he created for this presentation as well. So what actually is the new Castel M focus rail? It's an ideal focus rail for all you macro photographers out there who frequently work in magnifications all the way up to 5:1. It's an accurate and time-saving accessory, and I will come a little closer to the camera. The pretty cool and unique feature that this rail is equipped with is this focus wheel that provides you with a very accurate movement of the slidable camera mount, which sits here, which is connected to a high precision spindle. And we have another blue lever here, which lets you choose from a range of different magnification factors, but we'll talk about this in a little while. Okay, Matt, you just marked the focus wheel. So why don't you tell people what's so unique about the focus wheel out of your experience that you had with the rail?
So here's how I feel. And when you're with regular focusing rails, which are a revolution when you start using them, you turn the dial, you turn the wheel, the focusing wheel a little bit, and then you lock it down, and you take a look at the scale.
You mean the knob that actually drives the sliding camera mount forwards?
Yeah. And it moves the camera forward on the sled, and then you see how far it went, and then you lock it down to make sure it doesn't move at all in case you're at a different angle.
Right.
And that process becomes, I'm not going to say laborious, but you have to repeat that over and over. So with the focusing wheel, you just turn it and there's a click, and then that's the increment. And then you take a picture, you turn it and there's another click, and you take it. And so to me, that's the part that makes it a lot of fun, is just being able to reach around the back side and click, then take a picture and click and take a picture. It's brought a lot of joy back into macro making. So yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, let's hop onto the next slide. Here we have, maybe you do a screenshot of this slide if you want to experience, or if you want to get to know the new Castel M a little better, and if you know all about the small little details the rail is composed of. This is just a shot out of the user manual, and it provides you with some more insight on the rail.
Well, before you advance that slide, let me just say that Martin he's so close to this, he might not think about it, but like all of the things you'd enjoy from NOVOFLEX, the thoughtfulness that they put into design of making sure that something doesn't slide off of the rail when it's clamped down, or that everything feels just right when you're looking for it, when you're doing something complicated, exist here. And the accuracy with which they render it, and the thoughtfulness and the design show up in every part that you look at. And I think that that's obvious when you look at this, and when you handle it, you'll feel it for yourself.
Well, thanks for your comments. So who should actually consider investing into a new Castel M focusing rail? So the Castel M focus rail is intended for all the macro photographers out there who work with manual macro lenses. Manual macro lenses can't use camera built-in focus stacking technology, because camera built-in focus stacking technology relies on autofocus lenses, because that's what actually performs the actual focus stack. If you're working with macro lenses mounted to one of our universal bellows or auto bellows, the new Castel M might be the perfect add-on. And if you're working with macro lenses or like special lenses like our 90mm Schneider lens attached to one of our bellows, the new Castel M is for you as well. So the focusing wheel, Matt spoke about this a couple of minutes ago. So what's so special about the new focus wheel? So a one complete rotation of the focus wheel equates to a movement of the sliding block of 0.8 millimeters. And one of the engraved division marks, I will show you in more detail here, equates to a movement of 0.01 millimeters of forward movement. And the blue increment selector lever lets you select different magnification factors, and thus certain increments that the focus wheel is capable of clicking at. Exactly. And why is this so important? Well, if you employ the focus stacking technique, you know that for a certain magnification factor, you need to move the entire camera setup forwards at a certain increment and keep a certain overlap into mind to let the focus stacking software create a perfect composite image later on. So depending on the magnification factor, you just rotate the blue lever here, and the focus wheel will click in different increments that are associated with the magnification factor. Anything you want to add, Matt?
It's awesome. We're using a lot of words to say that the NOVOFLEX is, I would say, revolutionized, but really simplified the process of knowing how far to move your camera when you're focus stacking. It's that easy. Set your lens to the magnification factor and set the same thing on this, and click, take a picture, click, take a picture, and move on. It's pretty amazing. So to use this, you can orient the compatible the Q mount ARCA compatible clamp. You can rotate it in 90-degree increments just by loosening the set screw. So you can go perpendicular or parallel, and put that clamping knob on either side, or front or back, wherever you need it to be. Why does that matter? Well, if you have a lens that has a foot on it and you're mounting the quick release plate parallel to the lens, then you can orient it this way. Or if you're using one of the auto bellows, you can orient it this way. Or you can orient it the other way if you're using a QR plate or an L bracket. So it's very versatile in that respect. Also, if you needed to mount it directly, Martin wants to show us something. Here we go.
Yeah, I just wanted to show you the composition of using it with an auto bellows. It's quite easy. So
yeah,
just detach it or slide it through the mount and put it into a position where it's best for you.
Beautiful. If you wanted to mount it not using the clamp on the dovetail, then you can use the 1/4 or 3/8 threads on the bottom, and you'll notice those marked number 11. Those are catches to stop it from slipping off when you're using compatible NOVOFLEX gear. If
Yeah,
you,
these will catch the safety pin that is a part of every NOVOFLEX quick release unit. So whether it be the Q mount, the Q mount Mini, or the Q-Base 2.
yeah, saved my Tookus more than once.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, yeah, because I do things in the dark and yeah.
Be careful, man.
Yeah, I know. If you use the Castball Pro, you can add it to this to do focus stacking with the Schneider 90mm lens, which is phenomenal to be able to do that.
So what this actually creates, if I may, Matt.
Please,
so,
yeah.
So what this actually creates, so adding the Castel Pro bellows to the Castel M focusing rail, it creates a technical camera. So the front standard stays put in relation to the subject, so the lens is not moving in relation to the subject, and only the rear standard with the camera attached to it is moving back and forth, and that's what creates the stack. And you can use this in macro photography and in product photography as well. And if you want to know more about this bellows attachment, you just jump to YouTube, and we've explained this in more detail in the video that we did on our motorized rail, the CASTEL MICRO.
Yes. We could drop a link in that before the webinar.
Yeah, please do. Drop a link in the comments section.
If you wanted to have an XY setup, you can use one of your existing focusing rails in the opposite direction to move your camera side to side, and then mount this to your focus stack forward and back on top of that. So combining it with another focusing rail is another great option if you're doing, let's say, mosaics or pano stitches of focus stacks, which has been done.
And of course, this works with any NOVOFLEX focusing rail, not only with a Castel Q underneath, it works with a Castel L, with a Castel X Q2. You can even combine two Castel M or a Castel Micro underneath. So depending on what you're up to, what you want to do, anything's possible.
So this is something that I put a lot of thought into after using it for a couple of months. How does it save you time? Well, first off, just having that magnification selector helps so much. Being able to match your lens to the magnification selector skips that whole part of trying to figure out how much depth of field you should have. And also, when you need to find your forward or rear focus point, there's a blue release underneath that is the coarse focus. It unlocks the, and I'll move it to Martin right now.
Yeah. Let me show you. So this blue lever here on the back side of the sliding camera mount, it just unlocks the sliding camera mount from the spindle, so you can pre-focus or do coarse focus as you put it. And if you found your starting focus point, you just lock it back to the spindle. And this is the lever that presets the magnification factor and thus the different click stops.
Now, while you're holding it there, Martin, stay there for a second.
Sure.
I just want to point out to everybody, one of the things that I always had to work with every focusing rail is that when you make your adjustment to how much you're going to move it forward, I don't always shoot level. Sometimes I shoot down. Sometimes I shoot straight down. So I would always have to lock down the focusing knob. Because of the way this focusing rail is manufactured, hold it up a little bit higher. Every time you click to move it forward, it just stays in place. You don't have to lock it in place because the entire mechanism is just going to hold it exactly where it is. So you're going to save yourself time that way too, which is one of the things that I've really enjoyed. It made me want to make more macro stacks because of it, So just because, gosh, I don't shoot level all the time, right? And then the other time-saving thing, you just choose your settings, set your aperture, and start shooting it quickly. And that's, macro is a technically intense practice if you're stacking. If you're doing single shots, none of this really applies. But if you wanted to get more depth of field, which is the purpose of stacking, then you're just going to save a lot of time. So the advantages that I identified was that if you're looking at this, and I sort of addressed this one already, the speed is one of them. The detents on the focusing wheel just allow you to move it confidently at any angle. And then the accuracy, each preset click stop is, you could see the numbers there, 0.067 millimeters, 0.038, 0.024, and 0.018 millimeters. That's the precision that you can operate at. And that's the sort of precision you're looking for when you're stacking, because you don't want to overshoot it. You don't want to undershoot it and have to shoot it again. So knowing that these are reliably moving at the same distance every time is a good thing.
And you don't have to work with the laser engraved scaling. You just take a photo at every click stop, and that's it. And you can be sure that the image is taken at a certain distance from the image before, and at the same distance from the next image.
And I think it's too many people have said that a product is revolutionary, but in that respect right there, not having to refer to the scale every single time makes this product simply revolutionary, because you just click, take a picture, click, take a picture. And then less math. For those of you who have struggled with figuring out what your actual depth of field is, and you've entered your own circles of confusion as to what circles of confusion setting you should use or value you should use when calculating your proper depth of field, this takes a lot of the guesswork out of it for you, especially if you're matching the magnifications. So yes. So let's talk about how to use the Castel M focusing rail. And this is one of the things that I'll have another confession here. I used to stop down too much. And this is something that I learned when discussing with Martin the optimal use of the Castel M. So setting your lens to f4 or 5.6 is optimal. And we'll go into this a little bit more in depth in another slide. But just stay with us now. And then other things, make sure that you have a static subject, if possible, uniform lighting, exposure settings, ISO, white balance. All those things are manual, right? And then set your lens to a magnification, 1:1, 2:1, or up to 5:1, right? And then you'll just mount the Castel M beneath your camera body and match the magnification setting. Then
with the blue lever on the back of the focus wheel.
Right. Yeah, you're going to set that magnification on both your lens and on the Castel M. And if you're using this at 1:1, you'll notice the first setting on that blue lever is not 1:1. That's the free rotating setting. So if you wanted to actually use the wheel as you would use a normal focusing rail, you could. You're not locked into using the detents, the clicks. But if you wanted to shoot at 1:1, you just set it to 2:1 where there are the detents, and either use 2, 3, or 4 clicks. And we'll talk about that nuance a little bit later. But this is how simple it is to use. And think about how different that is to how you normally prepare to make macro.
We actually have found out that if you're working at 1:1 and want to use click stops, just set it to 2:1, as Matt pointed out, and take an image at every 4th click stop.
Very nice.
That's a perfect match. And then it works for 1:1 as well.
Nice. Now, why f4 or 5.6? Martin, do you want to speak to this?
Well, yeah, actually, when we designed this, we spoke with many experts in macro photography and focus stacking and asked them, well, what magnification, and not what magnification, but what f-stop would you recommend? And most, if not all of them, recommended to use either f4 or f5.6, and we decided to stick with f4 because working with f4 and doing the stacks, there's no diffraction that is involved when doing the actual stack, because if you're closing down the aperture too much, you will experience diffraction within your images, which actually make your background appear blurred, which won't let you create a successful composite image in the end.
And that's simply light reflecting off of the rounded edges of the iris blades, correct?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's I guess that clears up a misnomer or a myth about macro photography, which is you have to stop down a lot to get the maximum amount of depth of field, because this is painful. We got to take a lot of pictures. Why would you open up so much? Well, apparently optimal is around 4 or 5.6.
So set your lens to f4, and you don't have to deal with diffraction at all.
Yep.
When using this rail at any setting up to 5:1.
Nice. So here's a close-up look at the blue selector dial that's on the Castel M. And just for your reference, if you wanted to see it, this is also on the user manual. What settings you would use, how many steps per revolution. So let's say we set it at 2:1. You would have 12 steps, click, 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 per full revolution of the rotating wheel on the back of the Castel M. And each increment is 0.067 millimeters. And your depth of field is 0.142 millimeters. And that's assuming, and we're getting into the weeds here, that your circle of confusion is 0.025 millimeters. And not everybody operates at that, but this is the standard that NOVOFLEX is set up, and at which all these calculations are done.
And by the way, it's the same formula that we used for the Castel Micro stepping motor driven focus rail. So nice. They're comparable in that respect.
Excellent. And it worked really well for me with my scientific and non-scientific tests that I did. So
awesome. Thank you.
Another way that if you're somewhere in between one of those magnification ratios, then you can choose your step increment by observation. And all this really means is that you're going to take pictures and move the increments a click or 2 or 3 or 4, and then compare them in Lightroom or whatever image editing software that you use. Now on the back of the camera, you should really, if you're someplace where you absolutely need to know what this increment should be, then you can use this method to just use observation to check it out. And you can come back and refer to this slide, but basically you could use a ruler that's tilted at a 45-degree angle to do this successfully. It will help you probably more than a complicated object would. So that would be my suggestion if you were to attempt this. But for all of the things that I've done so far, just using the scale and matching the magnification have made this a joy. Anything to add, Martin?
Nothing to add from my end. It was a perfect explanation.
Great. So let's hop into a live demo.
Yeah, let's do this. Let's turn on my camera.
Oh.
Let's switch over here. Close my laptop. So this is my little macro setup that I have here. I did a little a coin to my clamp here. I have the Castel M here, a 100mm macro Canon on a Canon EOS R, and I have a second Castel XQ2 focus rail added underneath to sort of be able to pre-focus. I could also do this by just opening up the little lever here and adjusting the sliding camera mount. Let me just switch the camera for you. So that's here, and I just lock it again with the spindle. And what I do now, we mentioned earlier that at a magnification of 1:1, we do a photo at every 4th click stop. The lens is set to f.4, so I take a photo. I do 1, 2, 3, 4. Take another photo. 1, 2, 3, 4. Take another photo. 1, 2, 3, 4. Take another photo.
Can I see the side view of what you're doing?
It's as easy as that. Pardon?
Can I see the side view of what you're doing?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So let's see
let me do this again.
Yeah.
So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. I take a photo. 1, 2, 3, 4. I take another photo. And the magnification lever is set to 2:1. So
Fantastic.
that's important. And if I would switch to this manual lens, this is a Laowa 25 millimeter, which has magnifications from 2.5:1, 2.5:1 to 5:1. I would set the magnification lever appropriately.
Wow.
And I could use the increments and the click stops to create the final images. So it's quite easy. It's as easy as that. Should we switch to the Laowa to do the same?
Sure. Yeah, let's do that.
Let me do
So
this.
while he's doing that, I'm just gonna, let's see. I've used a variety of lenses with this. I've used my now 100 millimeter. I've used the Schneider 90 millimeter, and I even used my retro reversed 24 to 70 2.8 S lens on my Nikon Z, and had a lot of fun shooting through with those different lenses. And my two favorites that I keep coming back to, and you of course will have your own favorite, would be the manual 100 millimeter macro lens, which gets the 2:1 on its own without any bellows extension, and the 90 millimeter Schneider, which is the sharpest macro lens I have, and apochromatic also, which definitely helps with the stacking. So
okay,
back to Martin.
Okay, so here's the Laowa 25 millimeter. I've set the f-stop to f4. It starts at 2.5:1, so click stop 2:1 on the magnification selector lever works just as fine. So, and now I take an image at every individual click stop. Another photo, click, another photo, click, another photo, click.
You had me at click.
Click. So it's quite simple. Everyone could do this.
That's amazing. That's great. So, well, let us know in the questions if you guys have any questions about this so far. I think they've all just been listening and wondering if it's available. Oh, here's your results. Great. So, Martin.
Yeah, I've prepared some results beforehand to save us from doing the actual photo stack right here throughout the presentation, during the presentation.
And this was
that's an image taken with the 100 millimeter Canon lens. And these were like 35 images for the complete stack. And the second one, sorry, that's with the Laowa lens at 2.5:1, and this stack is composed of 77 images. And we did this just prior to this webinar.
Wow! So it's a great way to save time, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so if you're working a lot with manual macro lenses, you should definitely consider investing into this rail.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I think I'm gonna share my screen for a little bit.
Please do. Yeah.
I'm gonna share
some more of your images.
So you guys can see. Everybody see my screen okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. I just want to start out by saying it's getting the tiny color checker from Calibrite very much helps, and I do that every time I set up so that I can make sure that this is correct. But the first thing I do is to make sure that I'm at a proper magnification. And if you're unsure, then just get a ruler with millimeters that you trust and photograph that. This one is 50 or 51 millimeters, which actually means that my magnification ratio was below 1:1. It was at 0.7. And you get that by dividing my sensor width, which is 36 millimeters, by 51, and that becomes 0.7. And I think I have that up here. There we go, 0.70. So that's what I had right there. So what I did was I set this up so that I was at the 2:1 setting, and I used every, gosh, what did I do? I did every 2 clicks just for safety, because this was a dandelion, and there was so much information in there with the dandelion that, and it was moving slightly, even though I had it suspended upside down, that I was going through and having all of these. And the net results from that was 154 images. And there's the processed image, excuse me, where we could see, and a dandelion is super detailed all the way through and through. And I stopped shooting before I got to the far, far, far end of it, because I wanted to have a little bit of softness in there and not entirely, just because I like the look of, especially this one, this spot right in here where you can see that it's just slightly soft. But this I thought was a very, very successful stack, and backlighting with a little bit of gentle side lighting only on the dandelion. And that one worked out to my satisfaction. Another one that I really loved was this one right here, which was a slightly greater magnification. This is probably closer to 0.8 magnification, but it was, the reason I chose this magnification was during the stack, which ended up being 52 images, I wanted to have it not to get too big at the end. And that's one of the things you have to make sure, is that when you're at your farthest shot, that the most important details don't jump off the edge there. So with that one, I ended up with a final image that looks like this. And the crispness of it and the out of focus areas having the appropriate amount of focus for me really made this part easy. The part that made it easy, of course, was being able to just use the click stops on the Castel M. So I can't say enough good things about that. And then I promised I'd talk to you guys about this one. I don't have the ruler photograph from this one, but we can get an even closer look at this one to see just how detailed it got. And like I said, I used flash on this one instead of flashlights, because when I used the flashlight, I was getting chromatic fringing on the stickiest, the most nectarish parts of the flowers. You could see the chroma start to separate. You see the red, white, and blue fringing on the reflective parts. So I used the flash instead, because it's not made up of 3 colors. It's made up of all colors, the flash tube. So if you're wondering about that, but this one was 143. And I started, this is the funny part, is I brought a little critter in there with me, and he was just crawling around while I was I had no idea until I was done with it that there was a passenger in this photo shoot. But even with the flash, it moved around a little bit.
How does the final image look like? Was this little bug in there?
No, he unfortunately Helicon decided to eliminate him in the final image.
Okay.
But what has been in the past, like still enjoyable but more labor intensive, what felt more like making art and being fun, and having fun on this one. So if anybody has any questions, this is good. Good time to let us know. But we'll jump back into the presentation. A really important thing that I want to stress is that if you're just looking for a focusing rail, great, this is awesome. And if this is your first item that you purchase from NOVOFLEX, fantastic. You will learn that it's part of a system, and the system really works well together. The bottom of the Castel M is an ARCA compatible rail, so you can clamp anywhere along that rail to secure it. And it uses ARCA compatible clamp on top, so that you can use a quick release plate. And any orientation that you like, and just build out your system there. Who are we looking at here, Martin?
This is an image that Robert Thompson sent over from Ireland. By the way, Robert Thompson is here in the audience. Hi, Robert. It's great that you're here, and thank you for all your images. And by the way, everyone interested in the Castel M should make sure to head over to Robert's website. He's done an in-depth report on using the Castel M out in the field. Make sure to visit his website and download his report. There's some amazing images in there, so if you're interested, make sure to check that out as well. Sweet. Yeah, this is one of Robert's friends. He goes out to and takes pictures with, and he's working with the Castel M out in the field. So this is not something you can just use in the studio. Take it out into the field and start create amazing images. So
cool. The next image. Oh, we did it again.
Sorry, I let you control the
presentation
from now on. Yeah, another one of the amazing images that Robert creates and frequently shares with us. Maybe Robert can tell us what this is, or do you know, Matt?
I would call it a tank bug. At least that's what we called it as a kid.
Bug?
Tank bug, yeah.
Tank bug.
I'm sure that it has a Linnaean classification, though.
Yeah.
Let us know, Robert.
Yeah, please let us know, Robert.
Oh, look at these fungi.
Yeah. Another one of the amazing images from Robert Thompson. And by the way, we did another webinar of photographer's portrait with Robert last year. So make sure to check this out as well, where he speaks about his photography.
Yeah.
Another one. And these were all taken with the Castel M, a pre-series model that we sent Robert to play with before we finally launched the Castel M back in May.
Nice. All right. Thank you for contributing.
That was it,
Martin.
Awesome,
and Robert. That's great. Let's hop right into the Q&A.
I spotted the question.
Asked this: how do you deal with the camera shake during adjustments?
During adjustments?
Set on the same plane of the subject. I'd be happy to take first crack at this one.
Please do. Please go ahead.
There's a number of things that I plan to do to reduce or mitigate camera shake issues that happen at high magnification. One is to have the most solid, beefy, widespread base that you can have. So let's say like a Triopod Pro 75 as my macro base, with even the macro legs, and making sure that that's steady.
That's what I have here underneath the Castel M. That's a Triopod Pro 75.
The heavier your tripod, it's just physics, right? The heavier your tripod, the better its stance. Even digging the feet into the ground with the metal spikes or something, the better your chances of eliminating any shake above the tripod. So step one is having a really solid base. But that doesn't eliminate everything, right? Because every time you touch it, it'll move. So the second thing that I do is I use a wireless trigger to trigger the camera, so that I rotate that and I wait until I know that it's stopped vibrating, and then I use the wireless trigger. If you don't have a wireless trigger, then you can use the self timer on the camera, like a 2-second or a 5-second delay. Depends on how much time you want to take to do this, right? But I find
this becomes more apparent the higher the magnification gets.
Yeah. So being more and more careful, the higher your magnification is going to be. I would recommend the $20 to $50 or maybe up to $100 investment in a wireless trigger will pay for itself in your time very quickly. And I guess the last thing I'd say is just make sure that you tighten down absolutely everything in your chain. Make sure that your quick release plate is perfectly tight, or your L bracket or whatever, because that's usually one of those things that happens Or if you're mounting it on the camera body, maybe there's a way to get like a lens collar to mount it in the middle of the lens instead to balance the load. Because the more it's sort of hanging off the edge like this, the more it's going to rotate. But if you mount it in the middle, there's less for it to shake during this process. Is there anything you'd add to that, Martin?
That was just perfect. Okay. Nothing to add. And make sure to bring in enough light into your scene so you get a proper shutter speed f-stop ratio.
I've been shooting macro shots that are like 1 to 4 seconds long for a while, and then I finally just pulled out.
If you can.
I'm a night photographer. Long exposures are like breathing to me, right? But as soon as you pump a flash in there, either whether it's little speed lights or if you get your big studio flashes out, you're not going to have to worry that much, because if you're above 125th of a second, around 250th of a second, the shake is going to be less relevant. So if you can just sync it with flash, that's the last thing I'd recommend. Yeah. All right. Greg asked us the next question. Any concerns about using micro 4/3 on a 90 millimeter from the OM systems?
Oh, that's the brand new 90 millimeter that OM just released. It's capable of doing 2:1 without any extra bellows or extension tubes. Mm-hmm. And no, there's no concerns at all. But we've found that with using micro 4/3 camera equipment, the click stops work reliably only up to the 3:1 setting. And when using the 4:1 and 5:1 setting, the distances in between the individual images don't match up with the micro four systems as well anymore. So using it with a setting all the way up to 3:1 is no problem at all.
Okay. Yeah. Robert chimed in and said that was a woodlouse.
A woodlouse.
Yes.
So guys, now you know. A woodlouse, a common woodlouse.
Yeah. Great. Well, I'm going to take a quick scrub through to see if there's anything else. Brenda provided clarification. I did not say that the color checker I use is the color checker.
You're welcome, Greg.
So there's a link for that in the chat. Color checker classic nano from Calibrite is my best friend for making sure that I have good color and contrast by camera profiling. As a wrap up, I think the last thing I have is actually you already showed it. I've been enjoying it with the 90 millimeter. Let me take my headphones off for a second to show everybody.
Sure, absolutely.
There we go. Since I have it here, this is the setup that I've been using most of the time, and with full bellows extension and the Schneider 90 millimeter on there. This has been just a joy to use. But again, with every macro lens that I've put on it, I've been happy. But this has been my macro machine lately. So, all right. I don't think we have any more questions. So thank you, everybody, for attending. If you're watching this as a replay, please be sure to leave your questions as a comment on YouTube, and we will get back to you. And Martin and the team worked really hard to produce something that is truly unique, groundbreaking, and I'd say market leading in this case. It makes macros so much more fun and dependable and reliable and enjoyable without having to involve electricity. So great job.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the kind words.
Our pleasure. So thank you, everybody, for attending. We will let you know what the next webinar is going to be shortly. And if you have any questions, shoot them to us by replying to the emails that you got, or going to the website and sending us an email, or replying to the YouTube replay. So until next time, Martin and I say thank you so much, and thanks for coming.
Thanks for tuning in. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
compound eyes of a fly, the colorful details of a flower, or the perfect product photo in the studio, the world of macro photography has a lot to offer. But anyone who has ever tried to take such a photo will have noticed that it is virtually impossible to set the focus precisely and with repeated accuracy. Focusing rails, however, make exactly that possible and are one of the most important tools in macro photography. They enable you to set your point of focus precisely and advance your camera assembly with repeatable accuracy. When photographing with manual and specialized macro lenses, bellows or microscope lenses, focusing rails are an essential piece of equipment, especially when the subject being photographed requires the use of the focus stacking technique, which is the topic of today's video. The innovative Castel M is a manual focusing rail specifically designed for the application of focus stacking in progressive magnifications up to a maximum of 5:1. As magnification increases, depth of field decreases, especially above 1:1 life size. The decreasing depth of field at reproduction ratios above 1:1 requires extremely accurate and precise camera advancement to create identical distances between the individual images of a typical stacking sequence. Precise overlapping of each image is necessary for the stacking software to create a successful composite photograph. The Castel M has been specially designed to assist macro photographers achieve consistent, predictable results when engaged in this repetitive task and throughout a range of different magnifications. The Castel M has a spindle that drives the sliding camera mount forwards with extreme accuracy for each image. It also has practical indexing steps for magnification factors of 2:1, 3:1, 4:1 and 5:1, which are selected via a lever. Once the rail is positioned and the starting focus point selected, progression through the sequence of images is carried out via a single click of the focus wheel, which advances the camera assembly clockwise in precise incremental steps to the focus point of the next image. No need to worry about the necessary step size and precise overlapping of the individual pictures. The rail does this for you automatically. The click stops have been calculated in such a way as to avoid the negative effects of lens diffraction. Whenever necessary, the sliding camera mount can also be advanced without the use of click stops. The advancement is completely arbitrary and controlled by the photographer. However, measured, repeatable step sizes can be achieved with the help of laser-engraved scaling on the focus wheel. One complete rotation of the focus wheel equates to a movement of the sliding block and camera assembly by 0.8 millimeters. Cool, isn't it? In addition, Castel M is of course completely integrated into our ARCA-compatible Q system from the top and bottom. It therefore accepts compatible removable plates in the quick-release coupling, which can be rotated by 90 degrees and can be used and clamped directly in suitable coupling mounts. Let's look in detail at the functions and advantages of the Castel M focusing rail and the benefits it can bring to your workflow.